Hi there, welcome to Nonsense Whisky. My name is VinPF, and on today's episode we're going to be covering another Mackmyra bottling. Now, I've covered a couple of Mackmyras in the past. I've covered what used to be the entry level to the core range, the Brooks Whisky. I've covered one of their Seasons range, and that's the Apple Blum, and I've covered one of their Moments range in the Skogs Halon. Now, this is a kind of newer entry into the core range. So the core range now goes the MACK, which is this, the Brooks Whisky, which is the second in there, the Svenska Ek and the Svenska Rook. I'm going to be covering both of those two in the next couple of months, so keep an eye out for that if you're a fan of Mackmyra. Now, the Brooks Whisky used to be their entry level, or at least to me, probably still kind of is in terms of me talking to you guys out there. This one here typically isn't going to be aimed at us, I guess. But I still think it's worth covering because, you know, it's still a good single malt whiskey. It's still fairly cheap, although maybe not as cheap as it could be. Now, this one here is a 40%er. It's added colour and it's chill filtered. Thankfully, and I will give them kudos for this, they say all that on the bottom of this label here. Excellent. I wish more companies did that because it takes all the guesswork out of it for me. And although I don't really care about colour per se, I do kind of care about the other two, the 40% and the chill filtration. Probably not for me, but that's really the key to this whiskey. Is it, like I said, it really isn't designed to speak to the connoisseur or the big fan. Although they won't say it in their official marketing, you look elsewhere and they kind of say it, and even the reps of old have said to me that this is really aimed at the kind of younger audience. You know, if you're looking at your kind of newly legal drinking age to the early 20s, something like that, the people that would go out and have a whiskey cocktail or some such. That's really what they say on their website. Designed for cocktails, designed for mixes, can be drunk neat or with ice. We're going to go for neat today. That's what the channel's all about. We'll see what it's like. We'll see if it's where it fits in and if it's really worth it for you guys to be interested in. On the nose then. Now, for me, quite like the nose. It's got a nice, fresh, vanilla, kind of pear, orchardy kind of vibe to it. I have to say, if this was in a blind tasting, I don't think I would be able to pick it out as a non-Scotch. It's got lots of those Scotch elements in it, for sure. Let's try on the palate. Now, it is a little thinner than I'd like, but the flavours are there. More vanillas, more pears. It's got a high spice on the back end. It's got a reasonable finish on it, to be fair. A little drying on the back end. But overall, it's a reasonably tasty whiskey. So this brings me to really decide whether I would buy it or not. Now, £35 in the UK. It's sometimes cheaper than that. I see it fairly often, about £30 to £32, not much cheaper. And if you just look at Mackmyra as a whole, where this fits in, the Brooks Whisky, which is 41 something, 42% or something like that. And it's a little bit of a step up to this, and it's about the same sort of price, you know, at £35 mark. But, and here's the but, for a little bit more, you're going to be looking at their Seasons range, like the Apple Blum that I covered fairly recently. Very interesting whiskey, finished in a certain different way in Calvados casks. So it's got that kind of extra oomph to it. You can't really compare it to the Skogs Halon, for instance, because that one was nearly £100 retail, although I got it for £50 because of the Somerton Club. My point is that even within the Mackmyra range, for only a £5 or more, you're going to get something that's a lot better than this. This isn't a bad whiskey by any stretch of the imagination. It's got its place on the shelf. You could easily drink this as a sipping whiskey if you really wanted to, you know, especially if you have moods like me. I ebb and flow depending on what I'm doing. I sometimes fancy a dram, but I don't really care what it is. I certainly don't want to dip into my expensive stuff all the time. So having something like this, I call them guard whiskies. This is the thing you put in front of your expensive whiskey so that when idiot you comes along to get a dram, you just reach for the first bottle and that's this, and not something that's loads more expensive. Guard whiskies, you heard it here first. So it functions as that sort of thing. There are cheaper whiskies you can get to serve that purpose. But if you don't ever want to mix your whiskies and you've got a friend who loves mixing their whiskies and you don't want to kind of do that for them, having something like this in your collection serves a purpose there as well, because you can serve them this instead. You know, sure, you can go and get some blends and whatever, but this is a good whiskey you can use for mixing and impress people without tapping into your expensive stuff. That's really where this sits. So if any of those things that I've said there kind of pique your interest, this might be for you. Otherwise, I doubt it, and your money's probably better spent on something else from their range that you can check out on my channel. And if you keep subscribed and keep an eye on the channel, I'm going to be covering the Ek and the Rook coming up in the next couple of months. And they, I think, will probably where you want to be putting your money if you're anything like me. I think that's probably a fair assessment of the MACK. It's a fairly decent whiskey. I'm going to enjoy finishing that. I've got not much left of it now. You see, I've enjoyed most of that bottle. I will enjoy drinking this. Don't think I'll be buying another bottle of it, but that's mainly because there's a lot of whiskey to try. Can't say fairer than that, I think.